welcome everybody. This is great. There must be some traffic out there. Gosh, it is Seattle after all, right? And it's raining. So glad you could be with us tonight. I have a fantastic speaker I'm going to introduce in a minute. Actually thought a lot about an introduction, and I was going off on a tangent thinking about all these things, like when you go to the farmer's market, you see these gorgeous carrots. This is from Winslow Farmer's Market over in Bainbridge. How beautiful those are, how healthy they look. I hope they're healthy. And then this was a lunch I had one day, or a snack at work actually. You know, I got a hard-boiled egg, and I had a baby bell cheese and a pear, and thinking, well, I'm not sure where the pear is from. I did wash it. Hard-boiled egg. I think it was cage-free. Does that make a difference? Hope there weren't any chemicals or hormones in it. And the baby bell, well, I just trust it hasn't been opened before, and I think I might know what is in a baby bell, but you know, got me thinking. And then, gosh, what is in it? What's in a Tokyo dog burger anyway? I mean, I'm not sure I want to know. That's my Tokyo dog, by the way. But, you know, so, but then I thought, I don't really need to talk about all that. I wanted to actually say thank you to a lot of people in the program who sent me messages when they heard about a little injury I had, hence my fabulous shoes. And I was so touched by how you were caring for me when I'm caring for you. And so that was really a nice, you know, love fest we had. And then I heard that our speaker also had similar events. I thought, oh my God, we just got to stop falling. This is not good. So Kim Cargill, any of you know who she is, or have you been to a talk from her? I think Carrie has.
Yeah, at town hall.
You did a town hall meeting.
I did.
Yeah, very recently. So I have her amazing book. There's the cover. I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about that in a minute. Kim is a professor in psychology for the UW Tacoma program, and also an adjunct clinical professor for the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences School of Medicine at UW. Currently on sabbatical, which she might comment on as either good or bad, but maybe extra time, maybe too much extra time. But I'm delighted for her to come and talk about a number of topics probably related to her book, and certainly related to things that we've been thinking about in her program. So please give a warm welcome to Kim Cargill.
I've really been looking forward to tonight because, or this afternoon, most of the talks I give are to researchers and academic conferences, and it's great to be in a clinical setting where things are a little bit more real. You know, it's people's lives, it's everyday behaviors and decisions. One thing I wanted to I have a few ideas for tonight. I brought some products for us to look at and talk about, some of the labels and marketing. And then I have a few slides with just a little bit of some research findings you might be interested in, and some strategies that you might like to know about. But before I go into that, I thought I could do a better job at it if I just understood the baseline of the group a little bit better. I was kind of curious if anyone could tell me something about maybe what some of your big takeaways have been in this program, or major behavioral changes since you've been in it.
I think the number one thing I learned that was totally different than what I had learned before is that it's not so much how much you're putting in your mouth, but what you're putting in your mouth and the quality of that food. It just seems like the number one thing that's changed for me.
Okay. So what would be an example of something you might have eaten before?
Low fat, non-fat.
Okay. And now? Okay. Good. That was one thing I had in mind to talk about.
Fat yogurt.
Yes, I love that.
Milk.
Yeah. Oh, anybody else? What have been surprises for you in the program, or just challenges?
Changes over time, even though maybe you don't think you're getting anywhere. It's interesting to see what shows up in the blood tests, since we are monitored regularly, and that's been pretty kind of eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually make some changes there, and it shows up, you know, it does show up.
Definitely.
So sometimes when you don't feel like you're getting anywhere on the outside, on the inside, you are.
Yeah, I think that is a problem with being so focused on body size, on weight. And for example, a lot of you might have heard there's been some research coming out the past few years that has connected sugar to Alzheimer's. There's one researcher in particular, her name is Suzanne Delamonte. She's calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. That's not proven. This is still some early research, but it's pretty promising and pretty compelling. And when you start thinking about some of these foods that way, I mean, who cares if you're fat if you don't have any memory or identity of who you are? And there really are a lot more important things. They're all important, but I think it is good to keep that, you know, that whole health perspective. Any other, yeah?
Well, I thought I was eating healthy because I knew that I should stick to brown rice and whole grains, and it turned out that I was eating starchy vegetables and way too much whole grains and not nearly enough protein.
Okay.
And that was a real surprise to me.
Yeah. Okay, so just nutritional confusion.
So I've totally changed the kinds of vegetables and fruits I eat and the amount of protein.
Okay. Macronutrients. That's good. Okay. So even though I am a researcher and a full-time professor, I have a very small, I am a clinical psychologist and I have a very small clinical practice. And maybe about a year ago, a young woman I have worked with quite a long time, she didn't, most people I work with are not coming to me specifically for anything having to do with food or nutrition or overweight. It's, you know, general psychology, the kinds of things people seek treatment for, but often that does come up since so many people are struggling with it. And we talked about food and nutrition on and off quite a bit, and I remember this one time I said something to her, I mentioned that when I was maybe around 30, that I lost about 50 pounds over the course of a few years, and had kept it off. And she goes, "Oh, I always just thought you were naturally thin. I didn't know you were a fat person on the inside." And I thought that was funny and interesting for two reasons. One, because it was kind of, she suddenly realized I got the struggle, what she was going through. And it makes a difference. And the second thing that sort of spoke to me about her comment is, I do think of myself as a fat person on the inside. And I think that's valid scientifically. And the reason is, you might have learned fat cells have what's essentially kind of a memory. Once they've had fat in them, even after they shrink, they always want to be bigger. They always want to have more fat. And so what it means is that it doesn't work to be in a 6-month deal, and then you're going to go, then once you get there, you can eat whatever you want or go back to how it was before, because they're waiting. They're lurking. So, to me, that's not a discouraging message. I just think, this is, I'll have that sort of against me. I have to be vigilant forever. Just like I have to be vigilant about a lot of things. I think that mindset is kind of useful. So a lot of what I study has to do really with consumer culture, how marketing and advertising affect our well-being, how marketing and advertising trick us. And so one of the things I look at with food is some of the very misleading and deceptive practices. The bottom line is that people want your money. There are so many food companies, so many products competing for market share, for your dollar, and they'll say anything. And those are, the government a little bit has contributed to some of the nutritional confusion, because there has been some disagreement over dietary guidelines. But it's mostly food marketers that drum up nutritional confusion because they're more likely to sell products when we don't really know what is something, what's healthy and what's not. So I think you guys are probably way ahead of a lot of I don't think most of you are buying these products, but nevertheless, they're still, I think, good just as an exercise, some of the tactics we're up against. And I just went and got these today, so. How about this one? We can pass these around if you want. Reed's Natural Energy Elixir. And there's like goji, acai, green tea, ginger. What kind of tricks, if we want to call it that, do you... Natural.
Is a trick.
It's a trick. Why? How do you...
Because you don't know what consists of the natural ingredient.
Why
Doesn't
not?
have any meaning.
Because it's not listed. You don't know if it's processed. It may have been natural once.
Natural is not a regulated term. It means absolutely nothing. So anyone putting that on a label, they're doing it because they think that's going to affect probably, unconsciously or
It must be
consciously.
healthy.
Right,
It's natural.
of course, it's natural. And it's funny, there's actually, there have been a lot of lawsuits, some class action lawsuits about this term natural. And if you go to the FDA's website, they made a statement that they're not going to define the word natural or regulate the word natural because it's too difficult to define, which kind of sounds like a cop-out, but I think the reality is that as soon as they regulate the term natural, food companies will just want to start using a different word, like pure, or, it's kind of a cat and mouse game. So yes, natural means nothing. What other words or terms?
Elixir makes it
Elixir.
sound magic.
Elixir sounds magic. It sounds like some kind of medicinal, therapeutic tonic, right? Here's the thing I really want people to understand. It wasn't just like two guys, Reed and whoever, in their basement who thought up elixir. There was a team of people with PhDs, really smart people, the same people who make iPhones and Teslas and all kinds of cool stuff that sells. These people are marketing geniuses, and they come up with all kinds of ideas, and then they bring in focus groups, and they test them, and they actually give people like money in the test situations, and they say they would have maybe 10 different cans. One's called Elixir, one's called, Magic Bean, whatever. And they have you go use the money that they gave you and sort of buy the product that's most appealing. And so the word elixir is not an accident. It was very deliberate to make us feel like this is a treatment. I don't know if you know, all of these energy drinks, these people who are called professional flavorists, there's another group of evil geniuses. Not all of them, but it's people who have PhDs in chemistry and taste, and they make flavors. They're the ones who make, acai Gatorade and pomegranate goji berry gum, and what did I hear about recently? Biscuits and gravy potato chips. These are just synthetic compounds. You remember Willy Wonka?
Yeah.
They're creating the feeling in your brain. It's what we also call in psychology a hallucination. People with schizophrenia sometimes hallucinate tastes, not often, but so it's this artificially induced taste. So what does professional flavorists do on energy drinks? They put something in them that gives it a slight, they call it medicinal note. Why?
You know it's good for you.
Yeah. If it just tastes fruity, like orange soda, people won't pay $5 for it. They'll only pay $1.50. And they won't perceive it to have given them energy. So there's also a placebo effect that's getting activated with that medicinal taste. Okay, so that's the trick here. Okay, good. So that's that one. Where's that? Oh yeah, I really like this one. This is all just stuff from Baumgaertel. Real health, superfoods, whole food smoothie, a balanced meal full of superfoods. Oh, this also has, just like that, this also has chia, acai, goji, and some other stuff, probiotics. What would make you suspicious on here? Anything misleading or just attractive?
Whole food? And it's in a box like that?
Yes. Whole food. Last time I looked, whole food meant a whole piece of food. And this is a powder. So, I mean, by its very definition, is it not a whole food? Here we have another term that doesn't mean anything. And this, I kind of wonder, I think the store, Whole Foods, they sell a lot of stuff that's not very healthy. A lot of what I call luxury junk food. But they get by on what we would generally call a health halo. You guys learn about that? What kind of one healthy property gives this halo effect, makes everything else about the food seem healthy. I'll give you some other examples of that. But I think the name Whole Foods is kind of a health halo. Because it sort of feels like, well, if I'm in Whole Foods, everything I buy is good for me. So yeah, that was the thing on this. But there are a few other keywords. Superfood, that's a big, I see that term a lot right now, especially in kind of magazines and what I would consider sort of a lot of like pseudo-health sources. And I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, certainly some foods, yes, foods have health properties, and some plants and some minerals have health properties, but you have to do randomized placebo-controlled studies to find out that goji berry, for example, is super in terms of antioxidants or immunology. I don't know if those studies are there. They don't really need them because they're going to sell a lot of this product without any research behind it.
And the brand name is Real Health.
Real health. It sounds so pure. Okay. And they have pictures of actual whole pieces of food. Okay. Well, this one just makes me mad. I'll show you this one next. Hydroxy-cut gummies.
Oh, God.
Lose weight. What do you think about this?
We are a culture of pill poppers.
I know. And now gummy poppers.
Oh, yes, because they take us back to childhood. They're good for us.
Right. So I went into, I think it was GNC a few years ago, and it was the first time I'd seen a gummy vitamin. I guess they started out for kids, and maybe the manufacturers found out that the parents were eating them too. And they realized, oh, we can sell more vitamins if they're in the form of gummies. Yeah, gummy bears are good. But you could take, you could just buy a bag of gummy bears and take a vitamin C and save a lot of money. Or you could probably just eat a bag of gummy bears if you want a treat and not take the vitamin C, because you probably learned that many people don't really need to be taking vitamins and supplements if they're eating the kind of diet that you're eating now. That it's a lot better if you get all those vitamins from food. And so a lot of these products I bought, because I was not in a grocery store, I was in Bartel, a lot of these are subject to almost no regulation on labeling or the product inside because they're supplements. There's a really good new episode of Frontline that came out. I think it may be the most recent one. It's within the past couple of months. It's on the supplement industry. So there's two really big problems with the supplement industry. One is that there aren't a lot of demands on their labels. They can make a lot of claims. And the other thing that's terrifying is that the things inside the bottle have not been tested. They don't have to show that the product is safe before it goes to market. Like, we could just make a supplement in your basement and then take it and sell it. And this is not made up. It will sound made up because it's so astonishing. Until someone dies, our supplement won't be pulled from the shelf. Or there are enough cases of significant liver injury from it. So the New York Times tested a bunch of supplements, and the labs found they just had like rice, ground up rice and hay, or just, whatever, just someone had, whatever's in your basement.
Oh my.
Yeah, we'll just put it in the pills. So that's kind of another political tragedy in my view. The FDA used to have the power to, our supplement would have to get tested before it was sold in stores, just like any other medication, any drug. And Congress took away that power from the FDA about 2 years ago because of lobbying. And if you know who Marion Nestle is, she's a pretty famous nutritionist, and she has a really good book called Food Politics, where she sort of tells that whole story of how FDA lost the power to regulate supplements. It's upsetting. Okay. How about this one? Sweet leaf. Natural, again natural, stevia sweetener, 0 calories, 0 carbs, no bitterness, no artificial ingredients. Are you suspicious about anything on here?
Has nothing in it.
I don't know that this is misleading necessarily the way some of the other ones were. Although I'm always suspicious of anything that says 0, low, no. I just always think those are false promises, because we all just have kind of a fundamental wish that some things didn't count, right? You could just go. I remember when I was little, there was this, the show Laverne and Shirley that used to be on TV. So there was this episode where Laverne and Shirley, or maybe I'm confusing this with I Love Lucy. I can't remember which one it was now. One of those. I think it was Laverne and Shirley. They win a contest, and they get to go to a grocery store, like in the middle of the night when no one's there. And the premise of the contest, they have a basket, and they get to run to the grocery store and grab all this stuff, and it's all going to be free. They have like 1 minute to do it. If they just get to the finish line, everything they get in their cart's going to be free. And I remember as a young person, I just thought, wow, that'd be so cool if you could just go to a store in the middle of the night and just grab all these things that would all be free. It wouldn't count. It's a very appealing idea that you could overindulge, and it would just not count somehow. But everything really does count, is I think, the truth that we have to face. But a lot of these companies, they know how that fantasy of things not counting. And so when they say, oh, it's zero this, it's low fat, it's no, it's like, I can't believe it's not butter, or whatever, it's not count. Well, I can believe it's not butter, because as someone mentioned, that stuff generally tastes terrible, the low fat stuff. But anyway, there's something else about this. I don't know, does the program have a stance on artificial sweeteners?
I did a talk and I felt that they were duping your taste buds and telling your brain you had sugar when you didn't have sugar and you wanted more of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So, one part of it is scientifically there has been some evidence that there's a large group of people for whom just the taste of something sweet triggers an insulin response. Mm-hmm. Even without the calories or the sugar. And that's just kind of behaviorism. It's conditioning, like Pavlovian kind of conditioning. And then, the other problem with it is that if you just kind of think about it, what is sweetness? What's the message that sweetness is giving to your brain? What is sweetness? Oh, it does say happy, right. It does say happy. That's another thing we better have.
Save calories.
Well, it says, yeah, energy is coming. Calories are coming. They're on the way. So guess what happened? I mean, how do you feel? Someone says, oh, the check's in the mail. It'll be there tomorrow. And it doesn't come. You're mad, right? That's no good. So your brain just got this signal, calories are coming, and then nothing arrives. It's a trick. So then you get hungry. That vengeful little brain. The brain doesn't like to be tricked, is the thing. And I think, it kind of also comes back to, and I think this might be what you were getting at, is I think we have to kind of move away from this, tricking ourselves. We really have to wean ourselves off the taste of sweet. I think. When people ask me, like, if there's one thing I'm going to do to, lose weight or be healthier or, maintain weight, is giving up sweet drinks, especially. Because liquid calories seem to be the worst. The brain also doesn't process liquid sweetness the way it does solid. So if you have 300 calorie sweet drink versus a 300 calorie piece of pie, that might be somewhat similar in their nutritional composition, the brain doesn't register satiety as much with the liquid as it does solid food. So people in controlled studies, the people who get the liquid sugar, they wind up eating more by the end of the day. So maybe just have some ice cream. Is the message. Okay, let me just see. Oh, yeah. We'll just do this one last one. I think this is great packaging. This went through a lot of, there are lots of people who their whole expertise is product label design. So not just the words, not just the content like we've been talking about with the other things, but the typography and the layout. So, purely Elizabeth. Low glycemic, nutrient-rich, packed with ancient grains and superfood seeds, free of refined sugar, gluten-free, non-GMO, vegan. And then there's all kinds of symbols that tell you that this is healthy and good.
I
I still don't know what it is. What is it?
Oh, it's.
Granola?
Yeah, it's granola.
Oh, it's granola.
I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's ancient grain granola. Ancient grain. So, what are the marketers, what are they doing to make this appealing?
And establishing a timeline.
A lot of people are gluten-free, that's a big trend. I would generally be wary of all food trends.
Pure, you've got that.
Pure.
Purely Elizabeth.
What's that?
Purely Elizabeth.
Purely Elizabeth. And then, this is like this kind of literary font, and it's all lowercase, it's like E.E. Cummings or something.
Yeah.
So there's this sort of, I don't know, it's sort of, to me, you know, it's like an old-fashioned typewriter.
Yeah.
So some, you know, scholarly philosopher or, you know, ancient eats this cereal or something. Again, it's kind of, there's a lot going on here that grabs your eye, sort of subtly, unconsciously, that's sending this message of, you know, it's just pure, smart people eat this, I don't know, Elizabethan.
You have all that symbology on the bottom.
Yes. What about free of refined sugar? What do you think about that? It's a lie. Oh, it's a lie.
Yes, it is. I wonder what is the sweet, there's
Yeah.
sweetener.
Yeah.
What's the ingredients?
So what it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's implying there's no carbs or no sugar in there. We all know there's probably plenty.
Yeah.
Refined sugar.
You know Robert Lustig, his book, he's just a little book, 56 names for sugar. Right? You just didn't go to the grocery store in one afternoon. It was mostly cereal companies who, now obviously what they did, I mean, some of them are, you know, yeah, honey. Okay, you could say that honey's another naturally occurring substance that's like sugar. It's actually metabolically worse than sugar in terms of the insulin response that produces honey. But it's natural. But a lot of these food companies, like Kellogg, for example, they have labs where they're making these kinds of sugars and salts that are unbelievable. I mean, if you think about, you know what cocaine is? A drug. Where does it come from?
A plant.
Coca leaf.
Natural.
Natural. So how does it get to be cocaine? Refinement. And a lot of people are arguing that sugar and salt and many other ingredients have followed that same path. They've sort of been transformed into drugs, high potency drugs. There's this new book that came out. It's kind of like more like a coffee table book. It's called Ingredients. And the guys who did it, they have a blog. It's like this photographer, and they just take these beautiful close-up pictures of all these, you know, you see these names. I can't actually read this that well, but you know, you see a lot of these names you can't pronounce on ingredient lists. So they show what they are. You know, they're always like little crystalline forms, and they've all been manufactured. All different kinds of sugar and salt. So I think you guys may have talked about the idea of food addiction. Have you talked about that? Okay. Yeah, that's something I've thought about a lot, and the term food addiction always bothered me. I mean, who's ever been addicted to beans? Or broccoli? Or salmon? No one. We were addicted to salmon? Sure. Yeah. You know, I think, if you just kind of stop and think about it, food is not addictive. Drugs are addictive. And we're putting drugs in food. That's the thing that's addictive, are these powerful sugars and salts that are going in. That's why I really like the message of this program of eating just actual whole food. The less you eat, I mean, just don't, if you could just not buy stuff in packages, you'd be done. There'd be nothing else to learn. But, you know, most of us don't live in the woods and, you know, forage our food or whatever. We grab food on the go and we go to the market and, you know. But if you can, I think, transform your pantry where you have as few, I remember one time some people came to my house to visit and I went to work and I was like, oh yeah, just, you know, make stuff at home, make any food or whatever. And I came back and I said, like, you only have ingredients. What do you mean? What does that mean? It's when you have to make, you have to like chop things up. You have to fix something. You don't have any cookies or, you know, frozen things or something you can just open and eat. Like we couldn't just open a thing and eat it. You have to like put it together. You know, that's not true. I do have some packaged food. But the more you can make that shift, the less you have, because I just feel like when I go to the store, I feel like I'm under siege with deception and lies. I mean, that kind of sounds a little conspiracy theorist, but I think that's accurate. You know, I spend a lot of, and I know a lot about nutrition, about stuff. It takes me forever to just go to the store, you know, because if I eat anything in a package, I'm trying to figure out, you know, what's the rub here? What's the lie? What's the next thing that they're doing? And so on this one, by the way, what was it? This sounds so lovely. Organic coconut palm sugar. It's sugar. I think on that Lustig's 56 names for sugar, I think he just has the list on, you know, and some of them are things, you know, molasses, honey. One I see a lot now is rice bran syrup. Agave. People think agave is really healthy. I don't know, I'm not saying don't eat agave. Just, you know, that it's, that's a treat. I love granola. I'll tell you, when I'm having a really crummy day and I want comfort food, and I usually kind of resist that impulse, but once in a while, I'll stop at the little store on the way home at my house, and I'll buy, because they don't have this, but I'll buy some granola and milk. It's a treat. To me, it's like, that's, you know, I'd rather have that than say ice cream or a candy bar or something. So it's not, don't ever eat this. It's just, no, it's a dessert.
Not a meal.
Not a meal. Yeah, because you're not going to be full on any of this stuff.
Even if you eat the whole bag.
And by the way, there's a couple we didn't talk about. Oh, and just hunger control with Slendesta. Totally fabricated, made up thing. We should think about what we're gonna trademark. We're gonna get some sawdust in your basement and we're gonna call it Trimvesta. And we're gonna, that'll be ours. Oh, you know what, one thing I did forget to mention, a lot of these things say they give you energy, and I want you to think about that. What does energy actually mean from a nutrition standpoint? Calories. That's really the one actually true statement on this package. Yes, it gives you energy, a lot of it. 120 that's another thing. This is actually
Per
1.5. Yeah, so that'd be 180 calories of energy for this. Not filling. But here's going back to this point about consumerism. People wanting to sell you things. And that's why they're lying. this stuff. Guess how much this cost?
$70, $80, $100.
God.
125.
$100.
Oh,
Really?
I'm gonna pay for it with a grant. But I sort of, then I just felt kind of bad. I don't want to give these people money, so I thought, well, maybe I should take it back, but then I don't want to make Bartel, I don't know. I'll figure that out, but it's high dollar stuff. That's unbelievable. I mean, you could just buy some Kool-Aid, a Coke, some chamomile tea, some gummy bears, I don't know what, an actual shake. You know, you could just go buy other stuff for $10, you know, without the false promise of health that these things are giving. But more than that, you know, if you're going to have, most of these things are just full of sugar. So when I am going to have a treat, I want it to count. I'm going to go to Molly Moon's, and I'm going to get a waffle cone, and on the bottom it's going to be salted caramel. On the top, it's going to be ginger, if that's in season. It has to be in that order, I feel. That is going to taste really good and be worth, what, $7 or $8 they charge for an ice cream cone. But this is not going to be taste good at all. So I just want to enjoy it when I have a treat and not have it be a lie that doesn't taste good. So that's kind of my spiel. I'll show you a few slides. Just to work. That's what grocery stores used to look like. Remember that? Piggly wiggly. That's what grocery stores look like now. That's a Fred Meyer. The Grocery Marketing Institute says that most stores have 40,000 products. Most of them, of course, are in packages.
highly processed.
Highly processed. So I kind of like to think about it as the Apple you buy at the store is actually a lot more like an Apple computer. And that's, you know, this is kind of disappointing too. I mean, I eat a lot of fruit. And that was partly how I kind of kicked, by the way, my sugar habit. I just said, I'm going to eat as much fruit as I want. I'm never going to limit on fruit because I want to be able to have a treat. And I eat a lot of fruit, sweet fruit, cherries, pineapple. I had a Honeycrisp apple today. But, you know, it's these Honeycrisp apples, for example, that's patented. That's patented. They're very sweet apples because they made them that way. They bred them. And they get a patent on them after 10 or 20 years. The newest one is a Sweet Tango apple. And you have to pay, it's called a club apple. You have to pay dues to grow that apple. They're so profitable. Okay, so that's most of the stuff, a lot of the stuff populating store shelves. We talked about it. I don't ever, anything that promises to be free or zero, game over. I'm not going to buy it. To me, it's actually a lot like, you know, the whole subprime mortgage thing. There were these promises, or you can have this thing you really want. You can have a house. Figure it out later. Don't worry about the math. Don't worry about how you're gonna metabolize those payments. Just take it and, you know, It's 0 interest right now. It's the same promise. And it actually, really, if you think about it, preys on the same group of people. Because it's more lower income, especially inner city kids. They see 5 times the marketing for energy drinks and sodas, inner city black kids, than white kids. The marketers are doing that on purpose. It's just a moneymaker. So there's, people have asked me, well, how do you stay slim? How do you maintain your weight? And sometimes I say, oh, I'm just on a diet of spite. Because I just feel so angry at the food industry sometimes and at these deceptive practices. I just don't, I'm not going to give them my money. It's not that I'm so virtuous or disciplined. It's just like vengefulness. So, yeah, I don't like anything like this. This I don't like either. Skinny girl. Again, false promises, and here you have this kind of imagery of, you know, this is, we've got lots of ladies like this in Seattle. I mean, it's not bad, but it's this kind of affluent, slender woman, maybe like Sex and the City or something like that. Promises that you'll be like one of the Sex and the City women if you drink, you know, cosmopolitans with this.
And it must be healthy because there's all that fruit there.
Yeah. Right.
But that cereal kills me. 0
I know,
grams
it's-
trans fat. Oh, so it's cereal.
Right,
It's
cereal.
So it's healthy.
Right. That's one of the supplements. Shred. I like that one. Raw Fit. That one, I took this picture at Whole Foods. Garden of Life. Paging Dr. Freud. What does that make you think of? Garden of Life. It's like the garden you eat in. It's so unspoiled and pure. And that's, you know, I think some of this paleo stuff is also appealing to this wish we have to be sort of simpler, like, you know, like how cavemen were, when everything was just natural and simple and not so complicated. Oh, that's actually,
Yep.
oh yeah, that's that. Yeah, good. Okay. Lipo shake, skinny gut. You know, the supplement industry, I really want you guys to watch that Frontline. It's astonishing.
So,
Yeah.
this is a protein supplement,
Which one?
Raw Fit.
Raw Fit.
The protein supplements are not good.
What does the doctor say about that?
I would say there's a million better ways to get protein than a pill. That's my honest answer.
Or a powder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marion Nestle says Americans get something like consume 5 times as much protein as is necessary. I mean, if you think about most of the world does not have access to protein. It generally, often, not with that, but often protein means getting higher on the food chain too. And some people are concerned about that for environmental reasons. I just don't think about the word supplement. What is it you need to supplement if you just have food? I mean, if you're not malnourished, and maybe if you're malnourished in Africa, you should have a protein shake. But most of us are the opposite of malnourished. So, but I think it's true. I mean, some people might be iron deficient or have, specific health needs where their doctor would tell them to take a supplement. But I think the average person is eating too many vitamins and minerals, because so much food is also fortified with vitamins and minerals. So there can be toxicity.
And too much protein.
There can be toxicity from too much protein. Is there a reason you wouldn't want it just from actual food?
Just a shake, a protein shake is a quick way to get.
So the convenience element. Why not have a handful of cashews? And maybe a banana together, because that would, the protein shakes usually have some carbohydrates, some sweetness too. You have a piece of fruit and some cashews. Or some cheese and an apple. That's good. I think most of the time, if I'm ever finding myself taking a powder and mixing it up, I sort of like, wait a minute, what am I doing? What is, even with fiber, they have like Benefiber and stuff like that. And I think those are, soon I take those, if I'm traveling or something like that. But the research on that, those powder fibers, is that just like with everything else, if you're not eating it with food, once you take something out of food, it's just like wrecked. That's the thing we have to kind of get our heads around. Juicing, there's another health halo. Once you take the juice out of the fruit, it's not healthy anymore. Then you've actually just figured out a way to manufacture sugar in your kitchen. And I just realized I meant to bring like one of these Adwala juices. You talk about a health halo. I'm convinced anything green, people will just devour and pay tons of money for it. Like I made a green donut. But, oh, that's so healthy. It's a kale donut. Big enough, tons of sugar. Gross. The green juices. And if you go over to like U Village, there must be a couple of juice shops. I always think it was big. They're like that big. Green smoothies or green juices. And I know they're sweet. I don't think they're locking. Nobody wants to walk around. If you actually make or buy a green drink, and it really is kale and broccoli and alfalfa and spinach, and you don't have any kind of apple or mango or agave, my hat is off to you. I can't drink that stuff at all. So most of to make them palatable, most of those, if you look at the actual fruit that goes in, even a glass of orange juice, how many oranges makes a glass of orange juice? Have you ever freshly squeezed orange juice at home? It's a pain in the ass. It can take so many oranges, and then you think, you drink this little glass like this big. You're like, oh my God, that was 10 oranges. Would you ever sit and eat 10 oranges? You'd get sick. So you just figured out a way, juicing, or if you have a juicer, you just figured out a way to manufacture orange flavored sugar in your kitchen. And that's kind of back to that, weaning from the taste of sweet, especially sweet drinks. I could talk about this all night, but I'll kind of forgot. So yeah, that's what that was all about. I forgot the slide. I'll just mention a couple solutions. And this is in my book, but if you're kind of hearing my message about consumerism and being wary about buying things, you'll know that I want you to just check out my book in the library. Because you're probably not going to look at it, even if you read it, you won't look at it again after 2 weeks. So it's kind of another, I'm sure my publisher would really be mad to hear me say this, but it is another consumer product. Limiting your exposure to marketing and advertising, all of it. Because here's the thing, this is not just about food. It is about over-consuming everything. Cars, electronics, gasoline. Think about the catalogs you get in the mail, and just once, I'll email catalogs and take me off your list. I'm on this junk mail thing. And some of it's just, I know if if the design within reach catalog, that's like a hot potato. I don't, because I love design. I think design's great. And if, once I open it, I can be perfectly happy. And I open that, and then suddenly, oh, here's this thing I didn't know it existed, and now I'm unhappy that I don't have it. It's just human nature. So if you just block as much of that stuff as you can. Even sometimes shopping in smaller stores, or doing like the produce delivery, where you're not just bombarded with advertising and marketing all the time, going to farmers markets, maybe Amazon, what's it called, Fresh. Along the same line, reduce variety. We know that with variety, people eat more. If you have more things on your plate, you're going to eat more food. There are some studies where people have there's an ice cream party. If there's one flavor of ice cream, you'll eat less than if there's 3 flavors to choose from, or 7 flavors to choose from, because we just want to taste everything. I saw this. It was like 16 shakes you must try now. Something online. Yeah. No, I don't need to try those. I don't even want to try those. In the same way, I don't want to try heroin. Because it's not even that I think heroin is like morally wrong or anything. I don't want to be an addict. Yeah. So I just think, why would I expose my brain to something so pleasurable, dopamine? I'm talking about heroin right now. Why would right now I don't know what I'm missing, and I'm glad for that. My life's good. I experience pleasure and happiness and fun. I'm good. So same thing. I don't want to know what that tastes like, because then how am I ever just going to enjoy my Honeycrisp apple? Now that that's out there, keep it away from me. I don't want my brain to know about biscuits and gravy chips, or you see, it's kind of like you have to retrain your brain. There's a neurological dimension to this, I'm sure you're finding. So I don't want this near me. I don't want this temptation. Make it a habit. And I think that's what, this 6 months at least in this program, just really ingraining these habits. I don't keep any sweets in my house because I know myself. I cannot be trusted. It's not that I can't have sweets, but if I want something sweet, I have to put on clothes, go to a store, buy it, and come home. It's a little deterrent. I don't even understand people who keep a gallon of ice cream in their freezer. If that's you, I couldn't be friends with you. I can't relate to that at all, because that would never, one of the things we know about willpower, people who have really excellent willpower, that's an illusion. That's actually not. It's not that they can resist everything so well. It's that they avoid the temptation to begin with by the habits they set up in their house and their life. That's the difference. It's not that they can just see things and resist all the time. So making it a habit. That's it. This is actually a reference to these famous marshmallow studies in psychology you might have heard about. If you haven't, Google it, it's pretty funny. But the tests on willpower in psychology were done with little kids, where they had to sit in front of a marshmallow, and they studied whether or not they could resist it when the grown-up went out of the room. And that was predictive of future impulse control and willpower. So I was just Googling marshmallow images, and this one, and I thought, well, what's better than a kitten and a marshmallow? I'd love to take any questions.
Do you think that there's ever a way that this marketing can ever be changed? Will any of this ever get better? It seems like so many people don't have the knowledge are acquiring the knowledge that we get so that we make better decisions about what we put in our body.
Well, that's interesting you say that. When I really started thinking about this was I spent some time in Cuba for work several years ago, and there's no advertising because nothing's for sale. There's nothing to sell. And it really opened my eyes to how much I was bombarded with. I mean, it's just, we're so used to it. It's just like breathing air. You wouldn't say like, I'm currently breathing air. I mean, it's just, you just are. So that's kind of what got me thinking about it. I have kind of a bleak view on that because we have built a consumer economy. If people stop buying stuff, our economy fails. I mean, that's what the economic stimulus was. It wasn't, everyone didn't get a check in the mail to go put in another mattress. It was to go buy stuff. And that's the economy we created. But you know, a lot of other countries don't do this. We're the only country that allows food marketing to children, like in cartoons. We're one of the only countries that allows direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising on TV. You know, ask your doctor. If I don't want to get started on the parallels between big food and big pharma are extraordinary. It's the same people. It's the same actors. So you know, it's the consumer economy, and it's also just lack of regulation is a dirty word. And that's what we saw with the supplement industry. People who actually died from poison supplements because Orrin Hatch and some other senators, but Orrin Hatch is from Utah, and that's the hub of the supplement industry. And he spearheaded the act that took away power from the FDA so that people in his state could make money and be prosperous. That's the calculus. So, you know, I'm kind of Debbie Downer on that question. But I think it is, you know, I think it's a mistake to ignore the political dimension of this, wherever you stand on that. That's a big part of it. And I think when I find it more, you know, if I'm thinking, oh, I better not have something sweet because that's bad for me or I might get fat. That's really narrow. You know, when I'm thinking, oh, I buy these foods, I'm putting money in the pocket of these people who are exploiting kids and giving them diabetes, and I don't want to do that. And it's a political act to not buy some of this stuff. So that, I think, actually kind of makes it easier. Then it's not just willpower. Again, it's the diet of spite.
I take comfort in kind of the grassroots efforts of people all across the country. You know, thinking about your question, you know, you're here, you're thinking about these things,
Right.
you're wrestling with them. You're probably impacting change in your friends, you know, friendship circle, and your family members, people you interact in the community that you live with. And I think that's just as valuable. And the people who are doing amazing work, you and I spoke before about a few who we met, who are just, you know, empowering us to kind of share that idea. And I think that's hope.
Yeah. Other questions?
Tell me if I'm crazy, but I just feel like a huge portion of this sort of marketing is really directed at women.
Yes.
The colors, the
Mhm.
names.
I'm glad you said that.
And,
Of course.
you know, I mean, even beyond the obvious, like the skin girl stuff, and
Mhm.
Shirley Elizabeth. I mean, it just sounds very feminine.
Yeah.
I don't see some
How many
big biker
dudes
dude
are
walking
buying
in
Shirley
Shirley
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
Well,
And
one,
then
yeah.
I'm with you, that makes me angry. You think I'm stupid?
no.
I mean, you know, but that's kind of the message I pick up.
Well, so some of it is, there's a book I like a lot called, why am I? Oh, I'm just drawing a blank on it.
Maybe you need to take some Supergrip.
Yeah, yes. Memory. I can't believe I'll think of it in a second. He's at Cornell Food and Brand.
Oh, Ryan Lunsing?
Yeah, Ryan Lunsing, thank you. I really like his book on overeating. Mindless eating. And he has a lot of videos. He's really kooky and kind of funny, and he has great videos online. And so he calls that nutritional gatekeeper. Most women are the nutritional gatekeeper of the household. So, there are a lot of, look at just laundry products. That's demeaning if we're still the ones doing more laundry. So, those like teddy bears on Snuggle or whatever aren't. Yeah. So it's it's a lot of, it's the home. But I think what's more insidious, that's kind of a different thing. Women used to be in the home more, okay? But I think there's also a predatory aspect of women's bodies and women being more concerned about their body image than men.
It's vicious. It just keeps going around. You buy this stuff because you have a horrible body image and blah, blah, around and around. Makes me
Yeah.
spite diet. I love it. I'm on the spite diet.
We could market that.
You're right. I like it.
Yeah. It could be a blog, it could be a Twitter thing, everything. That's the thing I want you to get, everything's a product. There's profitability in everything. So when you just think about that. This was really fun. As Susan said, I'm on sabbatical, and it's not really extra time, it's solitary time. It's a lot of working at home, it's a lot of piercing quiet. So it's wonderful to have this dynamic exchange and hear your stories.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This has really been a treat. And if you want to go to say afterwards and talk a bit more, please welcome.